What's up, everybody? Welcome to the NFL Brekkie Show alongside Laurie Horesh. I'm Phil Murphy. Laws, it's not just the last weekend of November. In fact, yeah, my maths are right. Week 13 bleeds into December for much of the NFL calendar. But as we sit here, week 12 in the books, we are 2/3 of the way through the regular season. So it got us thinking at the snapshot that is the NFL, as we take things as they are, what is going to remain through season's end, and what has opportunity to change?
We have a habit in the following the NFL and being part of the NFL content space, the NFL discussion week to week, the growing one in this part of the world and all in the international parts of the world, as well as obviously the birthplace of this game over where you reside there, Phil, in the United States. We have a habit of crowning early. That is, it tends to be something that we don't mind doing. You know, we see whether it's a rookie sensation or a new free agent land with a massive splash, immediate impact, chunk plays, splash plays, immediate wins, and we start to crown them really quickly. And I think we have to remember sometimes that, you know, we get to our dirty 30 part of the season or a midway point of the season, we feel like we know who people are. And then whether it's a rookie wall or whether it's teams getting more tape on new combinations or whether it's new schemes in different destinations, defensively, offensively. Hey, special teams. We saw a special teams chaotic fever fest in week 12.
Some of these dream in DC.
A dream for some, nightmare for others. It depends where you want your draft pick to be in the 2025 NFL draft. But we see these take hold, and those things do need to mature. They do need to gel. And we're also seeing a lot of big key contributors, some of the biggest players in the game, make their way back onto the field over the past couple of weeks, and it does shake things up. And we do see runs start to fade a little early, and we start to see teams getting cattle back on the field, getting their key playmakers back on the field, start to position themselves and change the dynamics in divisions, in conferences, and in those lovely things called debates that we love to throw around for things like Rookie of the Year or MVP. So we get to dive into a bit of it now. Just take stock of, you know, I posted as this. Who did we crown a little early? And you summed it up. Who's going to try and catch me if you can? Who's going to come up from the trailing position and, you know, jump in front of the lead despite all the certain cement opinions there? That's a Jim Ross pronunciation of cement there. Cement. Filling a Corvette full of cement. Be careful. So, yeah, who's going to be that bolter from the pack? And who are those favorites that are out in front that we think, yeah, going hard around the first couple of bends might not have been the best play for us to go, yeah, you're destined for Super Bowl glory, you're destined for individual honors.
Yeah, Laz, and the title, Catch Me If You Can, inspired by the terrific Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks movie from, got to be 18 years ago now. If you haven't seen it, get on it. Masterful performance. And there's a holiday motif, which I pointed out to you in our pre-show conversation about loneliness around the holidays. But Laz, yeah, this is, as we look maybe where things were a couple weeks ago, where things are going now. The first one I wanted to chat about was the Rookie of the Year conversation, stemming from a Damian Woody take on First Take, I want to say yesterday here stateside, that Bo Nix is the Rookie of the Year. And if you were to rewind this, 6 weeks ago, maybe even 5, not only was Jaden Daniels Rookie of the Year runaway favorite, if not Rookie of the Year elect, he was probably closer to MVP status than he was to anybody behind him. We thought maybe Caleb Williams would be the most capable of catching him for Rookie of the Year. Now Denver's gone on a run, and they've been buoyed by their quarterback. So, Laz, what do you think about the catch me if you can? Can Bo Nix catch Jaden Daniels for Rookie of the Year?
Absolutely. And I think this has been something I was chatting to a couple of people about things in the NFC East with the way the Eagles have made their statement, with the state of the New York Giants, quarterback controversy there with the Commanders, and that ridiculous 5 minutes against the Dallas Cowboys. But Jaden Daniels has been slipping off form the last couple of weeks. Not alarm bells, but whether that's the team catching up, whether that's teams' offensive defensive coordinators on the other side getting film and seeing what we can take away, whether that's some Cliff Kingsbury's schematic work being called into question, or again, more tape in this new iteration of Cliff Kingsbury back in the NFL picture, more teams able to prepare and take away things that Jaden Daniels might like. But when you just look at the numbers, we know that victories have fallen off for Washington, and that being at the helm, particularly the quarterback position of a winning a winning team as a rookie QB is such a quick gateway to offensive rookie of the year status. But the victories have started to fall away. Obviously, the Broncos have hit stride. And then you look at the last 3 weeks and look at the numbers. Jaden Daniels is sitting kind of third out of those 4 rookie quarterbacks that are getting extended playing time right now. Michael Penix not included, and obviously JJ McCarthy not. He's sitting third when you look at EPA per play. When you look at success rate, he sits at third. When you're looking at completion percentage over expectation, he's actually a distant 4th out of those 4 rookie QB starters. Over the past 3 weeks, when this form has started to change, we've seen Drake May, who's worth throwing out here, obviously going to be not going to be on as competitive a roster as the likes of a Daniels or Nix, obviously, and even Caleb Williams. I think the Bears have got a better chance to stay somewhat in the mix of a wild card contention than the Patriots do. But Drake May's performance on losing teams there's been beautiful moments of pocket maneuverability, his athleticism, his arm talent on show. So you're looking at EPA per play on third down. So your third down efficiency there. He's also he's sitting in second, but a bit off the back of someone like Caleb Williams, who's had some of his stronger performances. And then against the rush, this has been a massive. We think about against the blitz, when you're sending those 5 rushes, this is something we talk about rookie quarterbacks all the time. Like, this is how you can unsettle them and get them off schedule. If you're looking over this recent period here and how this tide is turning and looking at those in a week from week 10, 11, and 12, Bo Nix is positive in EPA per play at 0.14 against the blitz. Caleb Williams is actually a step better at 0.21. Drake May, 0.07. And Jaden Daniels is down there at negative 0.39. So way off the pace in terms of how he's handling that more advanced quarterback responsibility when you're getting more exotic, aggressive packages sent your way from a defensive side of things. So I think the trend is moving away. I think someone like Nix is absolutely stepping in the fold, has that winning record right now, has a team moving in the right direction. I don't think Caleb Williams can put himself in that position. But Drake May is one that jumps out to me just because the surrounding circumstances are so obvious that if May starts to put up very comparable or even better numbers, whether that's raw numbers or metrics, and he's going to give you more flashy plays than someone like Bo Nix, he's going to have the better highlight reel. He's one that could be put in into that conversation as well. But I think your take that Bo Nix is hunting down and maybe even surpassing Jaden Daniels for Rookie of the Year favoritism. Offensive Rookie of the Year favoritism, absolutely. I will say the one name that I want to say here that we haven't brought up, Brock Bowers. Record-setting pace at the tight end. Yeah. So deserves, we know we get so QB-centric on our conversations about awards, but Brock Bowers pacing, the record books at tight end productivity after Sam Laporta just put up a hell of a rookie season in 23, just put that way out of mind, not to mention that Brock Bowers has done it with the quarterback play he has so far, which is only about to take a further nosedive with Gardner Minshew's injury.
Yeah, Laz, I don't need to go as sexy as EPA per play just the last 3 weeks. You took the snapshot after week 9.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels led all quarterbacks in QBR when pressured. Now, things were very pronounced in a 2 for 8 for 6 yards and a pick performance in a loss to Dallas last week while under pressure. But over the last 3 weeks, he went from a 54% passer against pressure to a 24% passer, whereas conversely, the Raiders blitzed Bo Nix 17 times, only got pressure 3 times, which to me points to a couple things. One, an offensive line holding up, but also a better pre-snap plan from Bo Nix, knowing where to go, get the ball out quickly. He went 10 for 17 for 119 yards against the Raiders blitz. And for him, since week 8, the numbers are somewhat inverted, going from a 5.4 yards per attempt passer to 7.8 yards per attempt, which is almost a 50% increase per attempt when opponents blitz him. And for Bo Nix, now starting to show the ability to go downfield and connect consistently with Cortland Sutton over the top. Sutton had his best game in Denver probably in 5 years in that win over the Raiders. But when targeting Cortland Sutton on those deep passes, 15-plus yards, Nix 51% at 11.9 yards per attempt, whereas other receivers, it's a significant step down. So I don't think Nix, if you take the body of work, he's trending in the right way. I still think if you look at the body of work, it's hard to discount what Daniels has done overall, though, again, trending poorly for him. But I will say the ball's in Nick's court in the next 3 weeks. Monday Night Football, prime time against the Browns, week 13. Week 14, I believe, if memory serves, it's that 8:30 a.m. Monday morning featured ESPN game, Broncos Colts, very significant as Denver tries to create or maintain, if not increase the gap from them, the last wild card spot and beyond. And then prime time, Thursday night, Friday morning by you to open week 15, a game flexed into Thursday night for the first time at SoFi Stadium against the Chargers. And then it's Bengals and Chiefs to close it out. So if Denver can get that 7 seed, Bo Nix is your rookie of the year, despite what Jaden Daniels has done. Laz, it's not the only award race where somebody is coming up from the rear, except this guy can, hoof it about 30 kilometers per hour straight line speed if he's keen. Saquon Barkley and the performances he's had in the last 2 weeks, the first player with 500 scrimmage yards over 2 games since Walter bleeping Payton in 1977, carrying figuratively and literally the Eagles to that, okay, who's the best NFC team outside of the Motor City? Saquon Barkley catching the QB cavalcade for MVP. No running back has won the award since LaDainian Tomlinson in 2006, and that took 31 scrimmage touchdowns, 28 rushing touchdowns for him to do it. Can Saquon win MVP?
No. I'm sorry, no. I'm sorry. Can he deserve it? Absolutely. Is he impressing all other likes of, Adrian Peterson and LaDainian Tomlinson in these ridiculous seasons? 1,000% he is. Is this the best possible oasis turning to reality for what Howie Roseman cooked up between the offensive line reinvestment and the investment at running back and Saquon Barkley? Yes. But the voters have told us what they've told us. Mm-hmm. It wasn't enough when the likes of Aaron Donald and J.J. Watt had history-making seasons. J.J. Watt was doing it on offense as well. Was dominating right. as a defensive wrecking ball and getting half a dozen touchdowns as an insert red zone package tight end, big 99. It wasn't enough then to shift that positional value. And let me say this, when it comes to voters, pass rushers tend to get more value, and I'm talking about two there in Donald and JJ Watt, not discounting what they do on the run game as well. They tend to get more positional value than running backs. We know where running backs have been valued of late. So I don't think he can win it. He can absolutely deserve it. He is scintillating. He is absolutely what makes this Eagles go. It's weird coming out of these Eagles games because you look at that offensive line creating options of creases for Saquon to go through. Then Saquon's own, we know the athleticism, the skills, the reverse hurdles, everything, spins, all that. But his own creative vision and decision-making to pick some unique lanes. And Jason Kelsey pointed this out on the broadcast, that look at some of the decisions he's making. Look at the creases he's actually able to get to with his ridiculous lateral agility, but also his vision and his creativity to go and do that. And creativity is part of that. We think about creativity and we think, oh, crazy, button mash, Kevontae Turpin, press B at a random moment, see what happens. But creativity is also in your vision and how you see the field and how you know to get your body in certain positions. So that is all absolutely incredible. But it's funny coming out of these Eagles games because you see that and you see him it felt like the 6th time this season that in a 1-score game, the Eagles not quite fully going yet. And then like the first or second play of the second half, Saquon's like, 70 to the house, bye. It was really nice. Yeah. Nice. I had I had Subway, I had a sandwich, I had a quarter pound, I had a little carb sugar boost. I don't know. I had, a meatball hero. I don't know. Had something at half, Philly cheesesteak perhaps. And it just gave me a little extra juice. And I decided to come out and end this thing within the first couple of seconds of the second half. So you see that happen. You also come away from games not overly overwhelmed by the passing game. So from that kind of split vote, I don't think that's an issue on the Eagles, whereas it might be on someone like the Ravens between a Henry and a Lamar. Maybe. Don't really believe that. It's a narrative out there. Don't say I particularly believe it. So it's not a split vote from the Eagles, particularly if they push for that top seed in the NFC. But we just know what positional value is. Leading the league in rushing, being a huge contributor in the passing game, explosive plays, all that blitz pickup, everything. A great locker room guy, loved in the city, everything, ticks every box except positional value that the voters have shown us time and time again. This goes to a quarterback.
Yeah, Laws, unlike Bo Nix, where I think it is up to him and his team's performance for him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, Saquon needs to continue to rush at his near record setting, or I believe record setting pace. He would catch Eric Dickerson over 17 games, Dickerson setting that record in 16 games for single season rush yards. If Barkley can flirt with that number, maybe not need to surpass it, he needs Lamar Jackson to throw more than 3 picks. And there's been video circulating social media. All 3 interceptions that Lamar Jackson has thrown have hit his receiver's hands first. So you could make a cogent argument he's not at fault for any interceptions thus far this season. So Saquon would need Jackson to stumble. Josh Allen, the Bills have an interesting schedule. It's 3 kind of difficult games. They get a desperate San Francisco team, Bills off a bye at home in prime time in week 13, but then they fly across the country to face the Rams, and then they play the Lions away, which is a terrific game. But then the Bills close Patriots, Jets, Patriots, and the division may be locked up. So if Allen can get through those games unscathed, I think he might become the favorite. But again, we're talking Saquon's candidacy. Allen would need to stumble, and we would need to see old Josh, bad Josh, out of the bye. And I don't know that we will. And then I think additionally, the Bengals would need to fall short of the playoffs. Now, that one is probably the likeliest of those, but if the Bengals can find a way to catch the Broncos or the Chargers, I guess, for the 7th seed and lock up a final AFC playoff spot, the Bengals do play the Broncos, so that's an opportunity there for them to get a win. And I think that game is in Cincinnati in week 17. If the Bengals make the playoffs, for me, Joe Burrow vaults to the top of the MVP race because he's been leading the league in most significant back of trading card categories and losing despite doing that. If he can overcome that, Bengals are out of margin, but if he can overcome that, he would garner a ton of MVP support. So it would need all 3 of those players to wane or something to happen for Saquon to get up there because of the things you're talking about, positional value. Laz, let's talk about teams. We've been talking about players catching other players, guys who don't even play against each other, awards, end of season, NFL honors, Super Bowl week, New Orleans. How about, the game on the field? In the final, 5-6 weeks of the regular season, we're in week 13 of 18. Kansas City, the 1 seed, and again, by hook or by crook, finding a way, beating Carolina by 3, Patrick Mahomes magic, tiptoeing down the sideline for 33 yards, exactly like he did in a less high leverage situation against San Francisco. Can Buffalo catch Kansas City for the AFC 1 seed? The Bills do have the tiebreaker, though they are a game behind on the ladder.
I think looking at the schedule, I think there's more. There are trip-up games, not even trip-up games. There's tough contests for both these teams going forward, right? Kansas City, notably, Chargers in 2 weeks' time. They get the Raiders up next, and they get the Chargers. They get the second half absentee Texans. It'll be interesting there to see what force wins out there. The Texans' ability to fade away, or the Chiefs' ability to keep
at the half, strap in.
And the Chiefs' ability to keep teams close that perhaps shouldn't be. And then a really interesting ones to close. 2 tough defenses. They go visit the Steelers on Boxing Day, Australian time, Christmas Day, your time, I believe. I mean, that's a frosty time to be visiting Pittsburgh. Not that Kansas City Chiefs aren't used to frigid cold weather, as someone who I believe has been to Arrowhead a couple of times and it's a little bit frosty. And then a visit to your Broncos to close out. The Bills, on the other hand, I think it's a little more up and down. I think it's a little more clear. There's the Rams and the Lions upcoming, both feisty contests, both certainly offensive potency there, a more complete operation from the Lions, but the Rams will certainly be desperate and hungry with that ridiculously balanced and middling NFC West pitcher in front of them. But then it's quite a soft close for the Bills. Sorry, they do have the 49ers coming up this week. We will see about Brock Purdy. That game either looks like an absolute belter or it looks more like Patriots, Jets, Patriots to close, which the Bills have a very soft final 3 weeks for the Bills. That so much hinges on what do they get against the 49ers upcoming. Do we see Brock Purdy out there? Or is this more of, what we just saw the Packers, I don't want to say a training run. These guys are professionals. They get paid to play. But 38-10 is not the score you're expecting from that contest if the 49ers had their starting quarterback out there. In saying that, looking at it all, I think the Bills can. I don't think they will, though. I think the Chiefs, I don't fully buy into, they're just keeping everything at bay and, they're holding holding the gas until the playoffs. But I think with the tests in the immediate future, particularly over the next 3 weeks with Purdy, if he is up for that 49ers contest, I think the Bills, I think it's going to be hard for them to gain traction. They have a very soft close, but it's a balance. It's a very rocks or diamonds run home. For the Chiefs, with the familiarity of opponents and the ownership that they've had over some of these division rivals, starting with a Raiders team this week, Patrick Mahomes having his most clean and productive performance in some time with 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. I think it's trending in a way. I think the Chiefs can hold them at bay, but we do need to see just more consistency down to feel that confidence in the Chiefs we had in previous years.
Laz, the curious thing about the Chiefs' struggles in recent weeks is for so long we've been saying, oh, this is a defensive team. The offense needs to find its footing. It's actually been the defense that's been poor and porous in the last 2 weeks, giving up 27 points to, all due respect, the Carolina Panthers, and then not being able to stop 4th and Allen. The Bills scoring 30 on the Chiefs' first team since late 2022 to do that. For Patrick Mahomes, passes over 10-plus air yards are going great. He's found synergy with both tight ends, Noah Gray and Travis Kelce, kind of 2 pedals on that tight end bike. And the team's slowly getting healthier. Isaiah Pacheco on the mend coming back. But if it's close, I'm always going to err on the side of Kansas City. They've won 13 straight one-score games. One-score games in the NFL are not coin flips. They come down to coaching and quarterback play. How well does your team execute getting in play calling offensively, defensively, schematic decisions, disciplinary issues, not jumping offside on a 4th and 1 hard count? Things we see mediocre and meddling and struggling teams always seem to struggle with that great teams just don't. It's not a coincidence. If it's a close game, I'm tipping Mike Tomlin and the Steelers because it's a very well-coached team. If it's a close game, I'm tipping Andy Reid and the Chiefs every time. In a macro sense, they know the value of keeping that home field and preserving it. And for the defense needing a get-right game, no better opponent against whom to do it than the Raiders, who just lost their QB1, who was actually probably a QB2 for the season or the foreseeable future with a collarbone issue. It's going to be Desmond Ridder, maybe Aiden O'Connell against the Chiefs. It's a great opportunity for a get-right game. And the Raiders actually maybe down to running back 3 as well. It was Amir Abdullah who started against the Broncos, not either of their first choice backs. So although you can sit there and play the schedule math and look at the Bills' last 3 and say, man, those are all wins. All right, we'll pencil in a loss to Detroit. Is Kansas City going to lose 2 games? One, we've seen the Bills be able to go on the road and win in the playoffs, but this year, I think in particular, I know they know the value of maintaining that 1 seed, both for the sake of rest as they try and get some pieces back that may be able to come back on offense, get guys fit. We know Travis Kelce's not a spring chicken anymore. He's in his career twilight. He'd be keen to have a week off. And most importantly, home field throughout the playoffs, so that when the Chiefs run into Ravens, Bills, pick your feisty wild card team that they may play against the Broncos, they want to have that game at Arrowhead, fans right on top of the field, deafening scenario. So can the Bills catch the Chiefs? Absolutely. Will they? I don't think so. May not matter, because I think if those teams play in an AFC championship game, appointment viewing. But I mentioned 13 straight one-score wins, ties an NFL record. With whom? Good question, NFL Brekkie Show viewer. That record is shared with the 2003-2004 Patriots, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, as they were working towards their prime, which was probably that 2017 that, funny enough, didn't win a Super Bowl. So this was the Patriot way. It's now Big Red's way, and it's just this is just what they do. I'm not going to – if any game inside of 8 points, I'm leaning Kansas City's way.
I have 4 names that I'm going to bring up just in response to that. And they're all looming. Well, 3 of them are looming massively for the Kansas City Chiefs. Charles Omenihu and his hopeful return, pass rush.
Yeah,
Isaiah Pacheco.
We thought he might come back this past week.
Isaiah Pacheco expected to be back this week to balance that backfield with Kareem Hunt. Yeah. And one that's surprising because he was thought to be done for the season is the murmurs that we could see Hollywood Brown returning. There we go. Which would be, because Xavier Worthy hasn't come on as a week-to-week contributor, it'd be very exciting to see Hollywood Brown in the picture if he's able to come back in the back end of this regular season. The last name is one that you already brought up, but shout out to Amir Abdullah. As a member of the formerly and now disbanded Amir Abdullah Hive, Amir Abdullah was there for us this week. You want to know why he was there for us? Because it was a terrible bye week for fantasy running backs. Bijan Robinson was off. Chase Brown was off. There was so many. I was looking at my roster, and so many others were going, who on earth am I going to forget the flex spot? Who am I going to put in? Who am I going to line up just in the RB2 spot? And there Amir Abdullah was stepping up, a receiving touchdown, a bit of work on the ground, bit of work through the air, giving you, don't know what your league settings is, but it was around about 15, 16 points on the day in a massive week. It's week 12. It was week 12 of the fantasy season. This is, crunching time. This is when you either make a playoff run or you start sliding down towards the toilet bowl championship bracket. So Amir Abdullah, shout out to you, because it's been a minute since you've had a moment. There's been the odd flash here and there, but nothing compared to that beautiful preseason juke run that I still remember us all fawning over back in your Detroit Lions day. But there you were for us one time in 2024. I'm pretty sure he's 31 years old now. He's almost as old as me. Not quite. He's not that far along the paddock. But one more time for Amir Abdullah. Thank you, sir, for stepping up and saving so many of us in week 12. It was beautiful to see you back out there in that starting role.
All right, Laws, we were halfway through the show, not quite halfway through the rundown. We have one more, catch me if you can. And this one, I buy. I'm in on it. I'll give you my take quickly.
Go.
The Bucks catching the Falcons for what would be, I believe, a fourth straight NFC South title. Tampa, a game back, but really two back, because Atlanta beat the Bucks twice in a head-to-head. Here's my case for Tampa, and it's two things. One, Mike Evans returned and looked sharp. And not just Mike Evans, but Baker Mayfield distributing the ball to all his wide receivers against a defense that has a good pass rush in the Giants, but otherwise isn't terribly menacing. But I was reminded of the as they went to New York, essentially, Tampa, all they needed was one Mike Evans, Laws, 5 catches, 68 yards on 6 targets. And overall, when Baker Mayfield was targeting wide receivers, 14 for 18 passing for 157 yards. You contrast that with how Baker struggled to find wide receivers when both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were lost minutes apart. Monday Night Football, I was there in Tampa. Over those last 3 games when they were without Evans, Mayfield targeting wide receivers, just a 59% passer at 6 yards per attempt. Not great. Now, Tampa has work to do to catch Atlanta. Atlanta's been excellent in division, very pedestrian outside of the division. Tampa's schedule remaining, they play the Panthers twice, they play the Saints, they host the Raiders. It is a very manageable stretch run, a very well-paved path through December. I like the Bucks to get to 10 wins, Falcons to finish 9-8. Whoever wins this is going to be your 4 seed in the NFC and probably get the Vikings at home in the first round. From a storyline standpoint, that'd be a whole lot more fun if it were Kirk Cousins hosting the Minnesota Vikings. But I do think the Bucks and Baker will find a way.
I agree with you here. I'm going to keep it short and punchy, right? You said they're kind of effectively 2 games back because of the head-to-head tiebreaker that they lose. Well, that 2 games could happen in the next 2 weeks because the Bucks have the Panthers and the Raiders. And I know the Panthers kept it close against the Chiefs, but Panthers and Raiders is not too bad looking on the schedule. Meanwhile, if you look at the Falcons, just the next 2 weeks, they got the Chargers and then they go on the road to the Vikings.
Ooh.
If I was a betting man, I might be having a look at
hypothetically speaking,
at the Falcons going 0-2 over the next 2 weeks, and the Bucks going 2-0. And now we're talking about something very different in that division.
And the Falcons have to go to DC as well coming up. They have to face the Commanders late on in a significant wildcard game.
They do, and you already ran through the Tampa Bay Buccaneers schedule. I'm not going to relitigate that. And the one part of this is just that we struggle with belief with the Falcons so often. Just when we had Ben Solak on the show, and we felt like there was confidence and belief in how they were using their talent and Kirk Cousins play, and then we've seen dips from that. But I think the skill position talent has been better, more effective use of those big brand names. But overall, there is still it's the defense, the absentee pass rush, all that kind of stuff. There's still a flakiness to the Falcons, and I don't feel that flakiness with the plucky Buccaneers. Yes, Baker Mayfield is still he's writing checks and making decisions to scramble that his legs only just can cash, or maybe can't quite cash, but they're playing. We know who the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are. As you mentioned, there's been a consistent appearance run in the playoffs. Baker Mayfield is playing dogged and determined football in adverse circumstances, and those circumstances have started to turn around. They've found gems in the likes of Bucky Irving contributing there on the offense, Cade Otton emerging with Mike Evans now back into the fold. There's there's more I feel I can bank on week to week with the Buccaneers. So I'm with you there. I'm putting it on the line today. I've got the Bucs winning the NFC South, and I think that picture and that just the standings could be flipped in a fortnight, less than a fortnight. It could be flipped over the next 10 or so days. We could see that completely turn around and be looking at the Bucs back on top in the standings as well.
And Laz, that dovetails perfectly to our hot take hotline, brought to you by Macca's. As the first half of Brad's take, we already addressed. Tampa Bay wins the AFC South. You and I think that's just spicy enough. Brad's second half, a little cayenne pepper on his breakfast sandwich. Miami makes the playoffs. What do you think about that?
I'm all in. I'm all in with you, Brad. Let's ride this crazy dolphin at the expense of whom? Looking at the AFC standings. AFC standings, you currently, yes, I know we are going to be talking. We got your Chargers and your Broncos sitting there with 7 wins, and the Ravens sitting there at 8 wins. So you are, sorry?
Yeah, eight wins. 8 wins for the Ravens and Steelers. So whoever doesn't win the AFC North. You're
2 games, 1.5 games back.
2 wins.
2 wins, 1.5 games back. I do think this is a team sitting there at 5 and 6 with 6 to go. I think they can get to 10 wins. I think we've seen a completely different Dolphins team over the past few weeks. The defense has been playing very good football, 4 straight games with an interception. I might touch on that in just a minute. 4 straight with an interception. Defense is turning the ball over. Defense also has, since that Bills contest where they gave up 30, it's been they haven't given up more than 19 points. We're seeing and yes, there's Raiders and Patriots in there as well as the Rams. The Rams are actually their best defensive performance, keeping them to just 15 points in that contest. Seeing a good defensive play. We're seeing Tyreek Hill has been playing some of his most healthy football this season. Jalen Waddle having a massive game, getting up near 150 on the day and getting in for a score. So we're seeing those. Devon Achane has become the central focus of that running game as the Raheem Mostert era has faded out. We're seeing a beautiful little blind, not quite a double 23 double George reverse, but a little reverse play, blind handoff, a little pop pass there from Tua in that contest.
Statue of Liberty, man.
There you go, America. But all in all, I think that Tua's been playing very good football the last couple of weeks. Offense moving in the right direction, defense turning the ball over and playing quietly good football as well. And Mike McDaniel using some, up to his usual calm and grace at the podium as well to match his creativity on offense. So I think, look, part of this that you weigh in as well, okay, let's go and take a look at the schedule again. They have the Packers. This is a belter. If they can beat the Packers on Thanksgiving in that closer, little after lunchtime on the East Coast in Australia, that's an absolute beauty to take in. That's a great way to finish off your Friday football viewing. 3 straight games, all on ESPN Live on ESPN TV. So tune in for that, or your streamable apps, wherever you're watching it. Just get the ESPN on the screen. But that's a statement victory. This is where this first starts. Then you go and you welcome the Jets. You play the non-existent second half team, the Texans. We'll see where the 49ers are. 49ers might be hungry, but they are certainly flailing and fledgling at the moment. And the Browns and the Jets to close again. I mean, there are some very tasty parts of that run home. They're going to need something to go right ahead of them with those 7-win teams in the AFC, the Broncos and the Broncos and the Chargers. I don't believe you're going to see it you're not going to see the Baltimore Ravens go from 8-4 to 8-9. They're not going to do that favor. But you're going to need a little help from those in front of you. But schedule and just the quality of play. Have a look at the power rankings. They're just finishing up now. They scroll along the bottom, but have a look. I've snuck the Miami Dolphins into my top 10 in the 10 spot because I believe in how they're playing, the trajectory they're going. Anyway, that's my view on that. Am I absolutely nuts, Phil?
I don't think you're absolutely nuts. What's working against the Dolphins is this immediate next game. They -3 Celsius at kickoff in Green Bay. We know the history there isn't great. And, Mike McDaniel, tongue-in-cheek, saying, I'm going to throw ice cubes at my players to get them accustomed to it. Now, it is a different way that Miami wants to move the ball forward from past seasons, in that it's not the big chunk plays over the top. A lot of pre-snap motion, what we've always seen, they run it at 58%. It was 73% against the Patriots, which for them was a season high. They lead the NFL in that. But it's a lot of one Tua release for a couple reasons. They don't want Tua Tagovailoa getting hit. Obviously, they want to move the ball quickly. It's been more possession ball, but that diminishes the margin for error. It's not that scary offense to go against. It's can that opponent play keep away? And there's a very realistic scenario where Broncos, Chargers, Dolphins all land at 10-7. And if it gets to that point, the tiebreakers don't favor the Dolphins. Their strength of victory is the weakest of those by a margin, especially if Denver gets there. That would imply a win over, a Chargers or a Bengals team that would help Denver's strength of victory. So I mean, it's certainly possible, but Miami has less margin for error than either team ahead of them. They do benefit from the fact the Chargers play the Chiefs coming up and the Broncos. So one of those teams, you could get there are a couple losses to be handed out there, but it's they're gonna need a fault from somewhere. Denver losing to the Browns on Monday Night Football or something of that ilk for the Dolphins to catch, only because they're tiebreakers. When you look at the broader AFC tiebreakers, absent head-to-head victories, which they don't have over the Broncos in this scenario, strength of victory metrics, it's just not very strong. Laws, our last hot take before we get to some tips for the Week 13 openers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, somebody here is not doubting the Chargers' ability to make the playoffs. Bryce Parker says the Chargers will make a deep playoff run and possibly make the AFC title game. Well, to me, to call it a deep playoff run requires a berth in the AFC title game, because that means 2 wins. If you win the wild card in the divisional round, if you win 1 game, that's not a deep playoff run.
It's very early for maths, Phil. It's very early.
If you're gonna, a deep playoff run is minimum 2 wins. And despite what happened yesterday, I do think it's possible for the Chargers to do. It just requires avoiding the Ravens, because the Ravens are just a better version of the Chargers. And sure, you can say, yeah, J.K. Dobbins went down and changed the game, but like Roquan Smith wasn't in there either. And that was the Chargers were really able to capitalize on that in the first quarter and a half. And then until Dobbins unfortunately got hurt again, Chargers are just a year away, man. They had to make some really tough salary decisions last year. We said there are muscle in Phil's Mafia. If the Chargers can somehow, I know they don't have the tiebreaker over the Steelers because of a week. Oh, no, they do have the tiebreaker over the Steelers, right? They beat them in Week 3. Who won that Week 3 game? Chargers, Steelers. If the Chargers can get to a 5 seed and go
Steelers 120.
Okay, so then the Chargers would not have a tiebreaker there. So it's tough. I mean, if I were to rank if we say Kansas City's your 1 seed, and then the likeliest of the division winners for the Chargers to beat, I'd say they're certainly most likely to beat the Texans.
Yes.
They have an avenue to beat the Bills, I think. And I think we saw what we saw last night against the Ravens, which is they're just going to lean on you with Derrick Henry in that offensive line, and Lamar's going to do just enough. So it would take a favorable matchup for the Chargers. Sure, it's possible. I just think they're a year away.
I think so too. We wondered if they were a team at the trade deadline that might have looked at a wide receiver to add to that, because they were kind of not ahead of schedule, because we know not ahead of schedule in Jim Harbaugh's view, because we know how quickly he can turn things around, his immediate impact. But they had turned things around so quickly. Could they catalyze that by throwing in another wide receiver talent? They didn't. And then I think we see the limitations. Ladd McConkey's coming on really well. I'm not trying to bury Quentin Johnston. He has been absolutely a huge, one of the most improved players in the NFL, quite frankly, coming off his rookie season. But that was not a showcase of his talents. It was a showcase of the limitations with 0 for 5, including some huge
0 for 5, 3 drops.
And one of those drops on the exact play that the type of play we saw him break out at TCU in college, going across the field in the short to intermediate part and having some blocking and having a laneway and housing it. That flying 20 that we used to hear about, the flying 20 of Quentin Johnston, that was ready to be put on show with a ball that was on the money, a perfectly called play from the Chargers. Herbert laid it out there for him and clanked. It wasn't even, he didn't turn his head too quickly or anything. It just was a big moment drop. That shows those limitations. And I think even some of the incompletions that we saw throughout that game, perfect balls from Justin Herbert. Like, Troy Aikman was saying it. You can't throw that ball any better. And Troy had, no, you cannot put that ball any better. But the window is so small with that receiving core at times, and with the coverage that was being played, that we talk about margin for error with some of these other teams in their schedule. The margin for error against the best teams, Ravens secondary hasn't been the best. They had some more shining moments last night than we've seen in some previous contests, but the margin for error with the receiving core at play. Will Dissly's a nice story, but he's not an explosive tight end option. It's just, I think, like, agree, a year away, and that's one of the areas that I circle. Just not enough matchup potential in that part of the offensive ecosystem they have there. We know it's more controlled than it has been, more balanced, more running, more power, but not as when needed. When they needed Justin Herbert to go, old Justin Herbert, cowboy Justin Herbert, he didn't actually have the fellow riders to his left and his right to rally that one and come back from that deficit.
Yeah, for me, the AFC West in 2025 is going to be the NFC North of 2024, in that you have three teams that are comfortably in the playoff conversation. One team that's a class above. I think the Chargers and Broncos year over year are going to make strides, both ahead of schedule. But to make a deep playoff run is entirely different than qualifying, especially in a comparatively weak AFC wildcard field. And with that, we say farewell and happy Thanksgiving. I know it's an American thing, but we're consuming American football here. So I am thankful for all of you hanging out with us today on the NFL Brekkie Show. He's Laurie Horesh. I'm Phil Murphy. Always fun to chat to you as we enter the final third of the NFL regular season. Keep it on ESPN for all the latest.